An empire of blood and sand. The true story of the Colosseum. Everyone knows the Roman Colosseum, but beyond what you see, there's a truth they never told you. The smell of blood beneath the arena, the clang of gladiators' swords, and the screams of thousands. This place where these sounds echoed was not just an entertainment center, but a laboratory of cruelty. Today we will uncover the secret history Rome wrote with blood, brutality, and pain, bringing to light the secrets you never knew. So hold on tight, because you're about to see that this story is unlike anything you've ever known. As the sun rose, bathing Rome's 7 hills in a golden light, a colossal pile of stone in the heart of the city began to stir. This was not merely a building, but a monument where thousands of lives took their last breath, an empire's glory built with blood and sand. The arches of the Colosseum still carried the festering shadow of yesterday's blood. Even in the morning's tranquility, the hum from inside, the shouts of vendors, and the rattle of iron gates cried out that this was no ordinary day. For this city knew better than anyone how to turn entertainment into death. The walls of this arena were not just of stone and mortar. Each stone was laid with a person's scream, a beast's roar, and an emperor's whim. This was not a random act of brutality, but a policy meticulously woven by Rome to solidify its power and control. For the applause that rose from the stands was not just for a show, but a declaration of unwavering loyalty to an empire. Before we delve into the secrets of one of history's most brutal entertainment machines, we need to understand how it all began. The gladiatorial games did not start with a grand ceremony at a palace, but at a funeral. In 264 BC, the sons of Decimus Junius Brutus, Sceva, chose an unusual way to honor their father. They would honor him not with statues or prayers, but with blood. For this purpose, they brought 3 pairs of slaves to the Forum Boarium, Rome's cattle market, and made them fight to the death. This was not for entertainment, but a munus, an obligation owed to appease the souls of the dead. This tradition was in fact much older than Rome. In civilizations like the Etruscans and Samnites, it was common for captives to be sacrificed at a warrior's grave to honor his soul. Rome inherited this custom from the lands it conquered, but it stamped its own mark on it. The victims were no longer chosen at random. They were determined by the courage and skill of the men who fought. Burying a man with treasures showed his wealth, but burying him with a blood-drenched spectacle was proof of absolute power. However, these funeral games were only the beginning. Rome's leaders realized that these bloody shows could do far more than honor ancestors. They could be transformed into a source of political power in the eyes of the public. As Rome expanded its borders, it needed to make its victories more permanent. Thus, gladiatorial fights began to appear, even at religious festivals. Although the Senate framed it as piety, an ordinary Roman knew the truth. This was state-sponsored violence designed to keep the people loyal. Even the gladiators' armor told stories. Early fighters wore the gear of Rome's conquered foes. The Samnite with his heavy shield, the Thraex with his curved blade, the Gaul with his broadsword. Watching them bleed out was like replaying Rome's victories, slash after slash. Death became propaganda, and as blood spilled, temporary wooden stands gave way to permanent arenas. These were temples to violence where thousands gathered. The games no longer belonged to grieving families. They belonged to the state. Every drop of blood whispered the same message. Rome commanded men, armies, and even death itself. No one could have guessed how far this tradition would go. What started as a ritual sacrifice morphed into an obsession. At the center of this obsession were men whose lives hung by a thread, walking on the sand. When we think of gladiators, we often imagine a noble figure fighting for freedom, but the reality was far more twisted. Gladiators came from the lowest ranks of society. Most were prisoners of war or slaves condemned for serious crimes. Their only goal was survival. But there were also free Romans who volunteered for this life for the sake of debt, or to gain fame and wealth. These volunteers signed a contract called an auctoramentum, which put them under the control of a lanista, a ruthless master who was also a businessman. This contract made them the property of their master, even swearing them to remain under his command after death. Gladiators were both the most scorned and the most admired people in society. Though they were outcasts, their victories filled women's love letters and made them chi,